Here is a really good question. And this is a question you could ask yourself or just the people in your life who are still under this. But why do people actually still fall for all these new age concepts and also other types of sects, cults, and concepts? Like, why do they keep being deceived over and over and over again? What's really behind that? So I just want to discuss this very briefly in this particular video. And I think the frustrating part is that you can see a pattern, especially when people roll over from the New Age to religion or vice versa, or they roll over to a completely different cult-like mentality. But here are a few reasons why people keep falling for New Age concepts and also other types of concepts. And I can speak from my own personal experience because I've been through this myself. And I think the person who's been through it yourself can give you the biggest advice on this anyhow. And I can also give you the opinion and perspective of others who I know have been through this too. So when you first start awakening and you fall down several rabbit holes, and for me, that huge, massive rabbit hole is whatever is going on here, the reality we're in, whatever the mainstream is preaching, whatever all of this is about, there's something off, there's something wrong, we're being controlled. This is not what it appears to be. That for me, that was like a huge, massive awakening. That happened more than 10 years ago. And unfortunately, it did end up following all these false agendas first, including Ike. He was one of the first people I actually came across, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because I noticed relatively quick I want to say less than a year after I fell down that rabbit hole. Oh, there's something off with this guy. And as already discussed in so many videos, yeah, he's also just part of the agenda. He's cabal controlled. He has several different clones. But Ike was another person back then, and because you didn't have that many people the way you do now, but you had only like a handful of people, it seemed. Another person was Teal Swan, who I personally never resonated with, but I had a friend who even went to her events, who was really pushing Teal Swan onto me. So I checked her out a little bit. And yet another one was the entire book series of Dolores Cannon, which, yes, I did read quite a few of her books until I started noticing it's just a huge waste, massive waste of my time. And this is also why I reviewed her and her material as a very first New Age review on this channel, because I've been through these rabbit holes. I've seen how they just rob you of your time, your energy, and how they really just rope you into all these false agendas. So there were these handful of people. There were also others. And that's how I personally got deceived on a massive level, or rather it helped me awaken more to what's really going on, because I feel just because I was exposed to this to such an extreme extent in the beginning and really burnt by that too, in a way, it made me really question everything. Like also all these New Age agendas, all these Ike agendas, everything. And there is a lack of people calling this out. Let's just be honest. Every single year that I call out this entire Lionsgate portal thing and Lionsgate portal this, Lionsgate portal that, I lose followers on not necessarily this channel, but I definitely lose followers on my Instagram. I lose followers on other accounts. And I'm still baffled by that, because I've been talking about this since 2020 on, especially with the Lionsgate portal deception. People have been following me for at this point so long already, and you still don't understand that you're falling for yet another huge, massive New Age deception that's being taught and preached about in the mainstream at this point, even, which should show you already how controlled it is, because anything that's hyped by the mainstream, there's no good to that, right? And then, you're massively censored with all of that too. Some years it wasn't censored as much, so you were able to reach more people, but nowadays they just put this huge censor on it. They slap the censor on it. I haven't grown followers on my Instagram in like 5+ years. Wake up to new followers every day. They're basically gone again at the end of the day, like just other followers they're kind of putting off. So they have their techniques to do that. Meta has this AI barrier that they can put on your accounts. I've heard that from others too. And so when you first start waking up, you fall down all these rabbit holes. And because there's a lack of people who are calling it out, or just a lack of people with critical thinking that are not censored, it's hard to come across something more sincere or something that makes you question everything. Let's put it that way. Another thing is, and I talked about this in the last few videos, is let's just go back to the New Age concept of being a starseed, all of that, and you channeling entities, channeling Galactic Federation of Light, all of that. The starseed concept makes people feel very special. And they like that they're special. They like that they're a starseed. They like that they are, oh, I'm part of the chosen ones. I'm different, meaning I'm better than others. That's usually what I see when people explode in that industry. Also their followers, though. Oh yeah, I'm a starseed. Who are you, right? Everyone wants to be a little celebrity, a little VIP, a little influencer, make easy fame in just a few months, be hyped and worshipped, put on a pedestal. There's a huge ego boost that goes into that, meaning an arrogance boost. And mostly this is because they come from the exact opposite, which is trauma. Trauma in the sense of they've never achieved anything in their life. They've always been kept down from day one, this and that. You know, no one ever said something nice about them. No one ever made them feel special in their lives. And that's another massive reason people keep falling for these concepts, is because they come from these deep wounds and these traumatic situations. And that's because they're very likely a targeted individual, or someone who maybe was even someone in a previous life and they're really kept down in this life. And these people need a leader. Most people who are following this, the New Age concepts, or just concepts in general, doesn't even matter if it's New Age or not, they're followers, they're not leaders. And very likely in previous lives, they were, again, deceived by yet other agendas. For example, religious agendas in those lifetimes, because the New Age didn't really exist until maybe a few hundred years ago, but for sure, this past century, it definitely blew up. And then yet others come from religion, where they weren't really getting what they needed, and then they go to the opposite end, or vice versa. They go from the New Age to religion, and now everything that's being said in the New Age is demonic, is this and that, but religion is not, which is ironic, because religion is basically the same face, the same snake, just a different end of the snake to what New Age really is about too. You know, like they're both preaching about similar concepts. The New Age calls ascension, what the religion calls salvation. You know, it's almost the one and the same concept. There are other concepts too that are almost the same. But I will talk about why people feel drawn from the New Age to religion and vice versa. I will actually quote something at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. And yet another reason is it's comfortable. You know, it's just so comfortable to fall for it. Why do you keep falling for the same type of love partner, for the emotional unavailable person? You know, because that's all you know. And perhaps these reasons why you keep falling for the same thing, you keep needing a leader, you keep needing someone to show you, oh yes, of course you're special, of course you're this and that, because someone always took you at the hand. And you know, and reasons could go back to childhood if you really want to go that far, but it's just comfortable to be surrounded by people in denial in that sense. And there is a full denial of your life, and when that's happening, and the reasons things really are what they are. I mean, if you can't grasp your head around people making psychic predictions every single day, or you know, for the full moon this and that's going to happen, for the like, oh my gosh, starseed activation, this and that, if after a few years or months of following that you still can't like grapple that you're just being deceived left and right, there's a huge denial going on in your life. You know, it's very clear. Like, this is what hurts so much, to see that people are still falling for this. It's very clear that we're being deceived by everything around us. It's very clear we're being bombarded with deceptions, with the mainstream, with the news, with advertisements, with people in our lives. Like, you see people, you know, they reach the height of their career, but that's because of being cabal members or being part of a larger network, those type of things. You know, it's very clear that we're in a matrix. We're under this huge matrix deception. But what's not so clear is what's the real reason. And so people start waking up a little bit, just like it was in my case back then. You wake up a little bit, and when you wake up, at first you're actually quite angry too, because you start realizing how much you've been fooled around your entire life. You know, how much they've been pushing all these agendas onto you through the news, through the whatever, like really harvesting your energy. But then you wake up a little bit, and then you come yet across, oh, there's this person preaching about ascension, vibration, fifth dimension, those type of things. Or you come across someone like Ike, who gives you the other spectrum of it. And then again, you fall down all these rabbit holes, you're being looped around, this and that. So you never really get to what is the real reason until some time has passed, very likely. And yes, I mean, there are many reasons. So first of all, you're a targeted person from the start, not just in this lifetimes, but many other lifetimes. They, whoever controls this reality or wants control of this reality, know who you are anyhow. You know, like you have that mind wiping going on, the veil of forgetfulness, whatever you want to call it. But they know exactly who you are because you carry that same DNA with you from lifetime to lifetime. Anyhow, you carry the same energetic imprint with you. Energy is very similar from lifetime to lifetime. That's a huge one too, that I had to understand myself when I started digging into that too. So they know exactly who you are. They don't forget. You know, they have a database of every single person you were in these past lifetimes, which are more like these parallel lifetimes and these parallel realities playing out, which is why you can also influence them from this lifetime, believe it or not. And it's huge, massive. Once you start realizing it's how powerful you really are, you will never go back to just following New Age concepts. You will never go back to just following Ike concepts because they will never teach you that. So yes, targeted individuals, that's real, but there's more behind it than any New Age or religion or other cult-like group could ever make you believe. And you need to find that on your own. You need to find that truth on your own. And a lot of people just don't want to do that because they're followers, they're not leaders. And I'm not shaming people for being a follower, but you need to recognize the pattern here and recognize if there's something that's really hindering you from digging deeper into your own truth. And another huge one is you're leaving behind a community that you've built up, especially if you have been part of the community, the New Age community for a little while. You know, in my case, it wasn't even that long, but I had still built up some sort of habits, you know, like back then, a lot of things were in person. So I was learning from someone who was a sound healer, those type of things. And he always had like these monthly circles in the vicinity of where I live. And it was nice. It's nice to meet up with a group of 10 people who want to know how to heal more with sound and those type of things. You know, it's nice to be part of a community. It's nice to have like these holiday gatherings with these people. It's nice to, you know, I had like shamanic circles too with the mentor that I had back then. It's nice to meet people and be part of a community because we are at the core of it by nature, we need community. We need that cohesiveness. We need people around us. You know, we're not meant for isolation unless you're really, that's your thing right now because you're going through a phase in your life. So you've built up these habits, this community, like you found people that somehow understand you. Maybe they don't, for me personally, they never resonated 100%. Like even people going to these circles, there's always like, okay, there's always something, but I'm still going to continue going because this is a community that I've had for like the past year, the past 2 years, those type of things. You have circles with them. You feel you're part of this bigger purpose. And I want to read something to you that has to do with the conversion from the New Age to religion. I actually posted this on my community board 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago in the summer of 2023. And I can't believe that 2 years later, we're still talking about these things and they're still so relevant. So I'm just going to quote what he said. And this is someone, he's actually a nightclub owner. He lives somewhere in an Arabic country, actually, but he summarized it so significantly and in a way I couldn't even summarize it. So he says, the reason the New Age to Christianity conversion rate is so high is because both sects, both cults are built from the same model. The New Age, not esotericism or metaphysics, right? That's a huge one because you want to be spiritual. You know, you have intuition, you know, you have these psychic abilities. And the New Age just comes and grabs them and puts them into something else. So the New Age is a pyramid scheme built on spiritual ego. Those who appear awakened live on the upper hierarchy where they funnel down partially false channelings to those who want a semi-awakening. The system works through cult-like expansion as little New Age hubs of spiritual ego pop up in different corners of the earth, and silent rules are made to create communities that often revolve around sex, partying that is disguised as a ceremony, and power games, spiritual teacher versus spiritual teacher. Priests are chosen, New Age celebrities, and I also want to say this happens in shamanic circles a lot too. There is a lack of boundaries, a discouraging of authentic emoting. Anger and sadness are seen as evil. and a complete loss of power, as spiritual bypassing becomes the pathway forward as opposed to genuine inner work. And I feel if you've been there, you know exactly what I mean. You want to do the inner work, you want to do all these things, and yet you're not getting to the depth of it all because of all this. And so he continues saying, in Christianity, the pyramid scheme may be more obvious, as much of the funds and energy moves towards the pastor, priest, pope, or Vatican. These figureheads also channel forth partially truthful information, as every religion contains splinters of wisdom surrounded by indoctrination. Literal rules are made to be followed, and there's a lack of boundaries, as the priests have been caught far too many times breaching the moral sanctity of children. Authentic emotion is discouraged, and people are shrouded in shame if they do not follow the rules of the church. The main difference seems to be that the New Agers lack moral integrity, and many, not all Christians, wear morality as an outer identity, but history has shown it is more of an outfit than an inner compass. It makes sense that many will swing from the New Age, which is the lack of moral coding, to Christianity, which is false moral coding. A lack of morals eventually gets tiring to be around, and pretending to be moral is the next step for those who haven't yet realized the journey of the soul is an individualized adventure that only your inner self can organize into existence. No organization, trend, or religion will save you from your inner truth. Only full transparency with self is the answer. And I feel this is really the main issue. And you can take the New Age, you can use a completely different community for that too. You know, there's many psyops that I have discussed on this channel in particular. It's all the same concept. Someone is talking about something, people are flocking there into blah, 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 blah. Instead of just being still, standing with your own inner self, your own intuition, being like, wait a minute, something here does not resonate either. And I just came from this religious cult or this New Age cult or whatever cult you came from. I'm not here to be deceived again. So this lack of awareness is really what's more concerning than anything. But this was a great write-up from this particular person. I forgot his name. I should have put his name when I quoted it. I think it didn't fit. But if I do, I will put it below this video if I come across his name again. He's amazing. He wrote a few more of these pieces, but this was his best piece. And I just realized by looking at my own post here that I posted on the community board that this is already 2 years ago. And we're still, again, in this situation where people are, again, deceived by different types of agendas, not just the New Age agenda. Why? Because they don't want to do the thinking and the critical thinking, and they by them on their own, and they don't want to be with their own inner knowing that everyone has. And why is that really? You need to ask yourself, if you think you're a part of this, why is that really? You know, for me, I have an answer. I know exactly why these things are. And I know exactly why I fell for these shams in the past and why I'm basically immune to them at this point, because I've just seen behind the scenes so much, especially in these past 5 to 6 years. I've seen so much through the own inner work I've done, through the own journeys I've done. Of course, no one's perfect, absolutely not. But I have done a lot of work with that, a lot of intense work. And I also had the time to do them. I know not everyone has had that, and you do need a little bit of time for it. But if it's important to you, you will take the time. So I know it's hard for people if you have a family, children at home, those type of things. But I mean, if you're wasting your time just watching TV constantly, you might just want to push that aside and do something for your own self, which is pretty valuable. So I hope this helps you. And I hope this kind of got your thinking brain in action, the thinking brain cells. Let me know if there's anything you want to add to it. And I do appreciate if you've made it this far. Until then.